Welcome to track 17. This is from February 2024 and we're talking about Parallel Lines, the third studio album by the American rock band Blondie. This was released in September 1978 on Chrysalis Records. Now, I thought Blondie, or maybe just Debbie Harry, was British. Apparently it's a common mistake. They were super successful here in the UK with several number ones, and Blondie themselves were influenced by British punk and new wave, their styles being similar to the Sex Pistols and the Clash. Now, the album I have is an original 1978 pressing, which contains on it the short version of Harder Glass, where the runtime is 3 minutes 49 seconds or thereabouts. Later versions of this album have the longer disco version of Harder Glass. I got my copy second-hand, but in great condition, from Revolution Records. It's got the original HMV label showing it was bought for $4.99 in 1978, and that would be about £36 in today's money, which is pretty impressive that someone paid that. I've been doing a bit of reading about Parallel Lines, and whilst personally I'll enjoy it, it turns out it's generally considered one of the greatest albums of all time. It's included in numerous best-of lists, and lots of musicians cite it as one of their influences, which is not bad considering the album was recorded in just 6 weeks at Record Plant in New York City. It contains most of my favourite Blondie songs, including Heart of Glass, One Way or Another, and Hanging on the Telephone, which I never knew, but Hanging on the Telephone turns out it's actually a cover of another song written by The Nerves. Back in 1978, this was Blondie's breakthrough album, and it marked their transition from punk and new wave to a more polished pop rock sound. And that's one of the reasons it was so commercially successful, particularly in the US and UK, where it appealed to a sort of broader audience, but still it didn't lose the band's punk roots. Critics praised Debbie Harry's vocal performance on this record, as well as the band's tight musicianship, which is interesting because Chapman, the producer, is supposed to have been very demanding, pushing for multiple takes and trying to get the perfection from the band, which as a punk group they found initially very frustrating. But over time they are said to have come to respect Chapman's expertise, and when they saw improvements in their own sound, they kind of got on board. Heart of Glass is one of the standout tracks. It was initially recorded as a slower tempo and sort of more of a rock song, but under Chapman's influence it was transformed into a sort of disco hit, which was a bold move for a punk new wave band. And their use of synthesizers and a drum machine on the track were innovative at the time and helped bridge the gap between the rock style and the disco. The album cover has the band dressed in black and white against a striped background, and it's become fairly iconic for that age, especially the New York punk scene. It was photographed by an Edo Bertoglio, who was a Swiss-born photographer and film director. He's renowned for his work in fashion, music and street photography, and he was deeply embedded in the sort of vibrant New York City art and music scene during the 70s and 80s. The album title, Parallel Lines, comes from the album track Pretty Baby, Parallel Lines on a Slow Decline. Personally, this album's quite important to me. My wife and I went to see Debbie Harry play in Cambridge on the 10th of June in 2010. That was Parallel Lines by Blondie. Thank you very much.